1963. 100 years after emancipation, James Baldwin wrote to his nephew,
Dear James, if the word integration means anything, this is what it means. That we, with love, shall force our brothers to see themselves as they are, to cease fleeing from reality and begin to change it. For this is your home, my friend. Do not be driven, and in the most terrifying odds, achieve an assailable and monumental dignity.
This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our communities and our states, in our homes and in our hearts.
July 2nd, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Bill into law.
San Francisco and Atlantic City, the Republicans and the Democrats, meeting to nominate their candidates for President and Vice President. Act 1 in a three-part drama of convention, election, inauguration. The Screen News Digest presents in sight and in sound, Convention Time in the USA.
What I remember most about the 64 campaign was the 64 Civil Rights Act. My dad had been a Republican all his life. And in 64, he switched. And he voted for Johnson, and he became a Democrat because Goldwater was against the 64 Civil Rights Act.
Are you concerned, perhaps, about the Democrats taking advantage of this?
After Lyndon Johnson, the biggest faker in the United States, having opposed the Civil Rights Act for all the years of his life, this is the phoniest individual that ever came around. Did you get that?
What the President has proposed in this bill is a law which will eliminate one of the most embittering forms of racial discrimination: the denial of free access to places of public accommodation, restaurants, stores, hotels, lunch counters, and other establishments of service or amusement.
I will never vote for a public accommodations clause in any civil rights bill because I think it's unconstitutional. I think it tampers with the rights of assembly, the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the freedom of property.
On the eve of the convention, 40,000 people, half of them Negroes, demonstrate against Goldwater in the largest civil rights demonstration since the March on Washington last summer.
I am compelled to urge Negroes and all people of goodwill to vote against him. His election would be a tragedy and certainly suicidal almost for the nation and the world.
I was a student protesting segregation of schools in Chicago, fought against segregated housing in Chicago, marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in the Great March on Washington. I have a long history in fighting for civil rights.
No.
I mean, did you ever, back in the 60s, between when I believe you were a Goldwater girl and
That's right.
whatever you became politically?
That's right. And I feel like my political beliefs are rooted in the conservatism that I was raised with. I don't recognize this new brand of republicanism that's afoot now, which I consider to be very reactionary, not conservative in many respects. I'm very proud that I was a Goldwater girl.
I know I should answer the question that is on very many of your minds, and that is, how did a nice Republican girl from Park Ridge go wrong? I mean, this is one of the great unanswered questions that we have to address. And I have to tell you, it started right here. And the reason it did is because in 1964, during the presidential election of that year, I had the absolutely best teachers for what we used to then call, I think, civics and democracy or government and democracy. Each was a semester course. And they decided they were going to have a mock election. And that we were really going to go all out. We were going to have debates. We were going to have the whole panoply of activities around a mock election. At that time, as Ken Reese has told every reporter in America who has called to ask him, and I understand he runs a one-man information bureau about me, I was a Goldwater girl. I mean, really, we used to wear, you know, little banners which said Goldwater girl.